Hello, everyone, and welcome to this module. That's right. Depending on the context upon which you know me and the content upon which you engage with me, I am either Show Me Sheena or I'm Professor M. But I'm excited to bring you this module from a different context. We talked about this in chapter 1, right? I am in the beautiful posh comfort of my vehicle, and as you can see, I have a little bit of cherry and white behind me. That's right. I am here and excited on the campus of one of my favorite institutions in the whole wide world. And I'm presenting this information to you, and I want to start with a little bit of review from the last module because it's interesting. We talked about the presentation of self. And so with that, when you're thinking about the presentation of self as it connects to the self concept of who you are, it's how we choose to present an identity to people with whom we are communicating. Right now, you should be asking yourself, why is she not in the same place, in the same corner of whatever room she records in, with the 3 monkeys in the back and the blind chick that's half naked holding the scales? That would be the Lady of Justice. Well, that's because I'm presenting another side of myself, and it's my authentic self. My authentic self and my love language is time. I am a creature of habit. I am a creature in perpetual motion to check off lists, and my intention is to track my successes. And that means today I do this module from the comforts of my car studio. So when we talk about the identity of my presentation of self, I want you to, for instance, think of me as someone who doesn't waste time. I cannot waste time. Everything I do is intentional, and it could be because of my previous life as a lawyer. Every 6 minutes was a billable moment. Every 6 minutes, click. My brain clicks, and I'm thinking, have I added value to whomever's life that's before me or I'm engaging with in the last 6 minutes? And as a lawyer, we add value to bill. So we bill in 6-minute increments. So interestingly enough, I'm not billing you per 6 minutes, but do know that every minute counts. So when you think about me, it's a question of how we make choices about which aspects of the self to present, and we struggle with how to best to present ourselves. So I thought all the way to the car, gosh, do I do these modules in the car because it's itching me that I communicate with people via video and stay on my schedule. So the question I had to ask myself, and you have to ask yourself too when you're thinking about the presentation of yourself, are 3 critical questions. Number 1, what identity do you want to put forward? Number 2, how do I use verbal and nonverbal communication to create that identity? And 3, how do I present myself if society is not supportive of my choices? How can I be who I want to be even if society doesn't approve? So interestingly enough, when we think of this within the context of me communicating to you and presenting this module and maybe the next series of modules from the comforts of my car studio, I asked myself, what identity do I want to put forward? I hope that when you glean from this video, it's not one of, oh my gosh, she's not in her studio, and that distracts you from the message. The message is so important that I'm going to get the message to you wherever I am, because time is of the essence, particularly at this stage of the game. If you are one of my students and you are engaging with me on the level of Professor M, we've got 15 weeks, and I know that many of you all have not even thought 2 cents about the material that I'm giving to you because you're already in like week 1 or week 2 and everything is still fresh for you. So I want you to be able to go back and listen to this lecture and this recording and this module so that you can catch up in your frame of reference. For many of you all who know me as Show Me Sheena, and I am your professional coach, your mentor, your confidant, you need these communication skills right now because time is of the essence. The presentation of yourself. Are you going to lose your job because of the economy? Are you going to lose your relationship because you lack communication skills? Are you going to lose your employees because you don't know how to communicate to them that you understand their needs, but you do need them to make sure that you hit your profit margin and you hit the bottom line of the goals for that day? So what identity do you want to put forward in the presentation of yourself? How do you use verbal and nonverbal communication to create that identity? If you are in front of me at a seminar, a conference, a lecture, I am very all over the place because I don't want you to fall asleep. I'm engaging and I communicate with the entire part of my being. But even in this video, it's my head, my hands, my body, because I'm in this frame, right? But 2, how do you use verbal and nonverbal communication to create that identity of you? 3, what happens if no one is really receptive? Like, you could totally give bad comments because this module is in my car studio. Guess what? Let's talk about this sidebar communicating. How about, because I'm delivering a module of lesson and teaching in the car, and I'm calling this my car studio. Ha! That's a taxable event, my friend. Ha! You may see a couple of other modules on a boat, on a yacht. Where else can I do a module and create my studio? Make that my studio. Okay. Just to keep you on your toes with these modules and these courses, I use humor to keep you engaged and to make you laugh. That is another presentation of myself, okay? But if you're not supportive, how can I be who I want to be, even if society doesn't approve? We will talk about that when we do a deep dive, either you as my client or you as my student. But we're going to do a deep dive on that because it's important. And I'm going to share some personal stories as to what happened when I was accepted and when I wasn't accepted, and how that changed me as a person and how that impacted my interpersonal communication skills and my ability to communicate. So when you think about maintaining your own face, how can you maintain the face of others? Okay. For example, I have a friend who is super funny. And she's funny all the time. But what if she wasn't funny all the time? Like, how could I maintain face? But she's super funny. Like, I'm in tears and stitches every time I'm with her. But even so, like, if someone's not funny, how do you tell them that they're not funny, or do you not tell them at all? Do you just let it roll off of you? Again, presenting yourself to others, but also respecting that ideology or that notion of what that person is presenting to you is important, and you're going to learn how to tackle that in this module now, or when we do deep dives. Now also, we have to remember that we have face work, which is important. It talks about our self-concept. Make sure that you're mindful of your face, because your face work is always ongoing. Whether you're truly engaged, whether you're listening to someone, whether you're watching them or you're looking at them with your eyes, whether you're looking at your phone, that sends a signal as well. Now, when we think about the terms of identity work in that term has been used to describe the communication that it reinforces, denies, or modifies the image others have of us. Identity work. How are you working on your identity to change your identity and how people feel and what they think about you? Even people with identities that society doesn't approve of or accept has been labeled as spoiled identities. So engage in face work. They too have their story to tell and desire that their face be respected. And who they are, and in the subject model in the realm of interpersonal communication. In fact, they may have very sophisticated and complex ways of projecting face, as one of the theorists talks about in our studies. When you deal with how people with different diagnoses tell their stories in order to present a certain identity. It's interestingly enough, the book that we're using gives us an example of someone who suffers from schizophrenia, but actually you can have a narcissist present a different identity and a different face. Okay, just telling you, they don't have to necessarily be someone who's been diagnosed with a psychological disorder. You could have someone presenting a certain face to go back and connect to chapter 1 because they have the need of feeling included. They have the need of affection. They have the need of feeling a part of something bigger than they are. That doesn't mean they have a diagnosis. It just means that they have an innate need that they want to feel welcomed, a part of something, appreciated, and recognized. So keep that in mind, that while people may have these ideologies, do know that everyone is unique, and the body of work that encompasses interpersonal communication is ever changing. Banging out the end of this module, there's my little descriptive there. Banging out, we're banging out, we're finishing, we're coming off onto the home stretch here. When we talk about the concept of self through lifespan, do remember that there are even different connotations that have parallel comparisons to the lifespan categories that we talked about in chapter 1. We will come back and review this, but do know that that is an important process as well, in terms of how scholars and researchers have deemed the lifespan. So they talk about how in childhood that it's easier to explain the theory of self-concept through explaining the dominance of the social, cultural, and psychological lenses. We've talked about our families being an important part in our childhood, but then in adolescence, it's the dominance of cognitive and psychodynamic lenses. Keep that in mind. The diffuse or eclectic lenses come in young and middle adulthood, and then the elder years, or what I like to call the hot and poppin' years, are the need for narrative years. So do understand that your identity of self and your concept of self, according to the theorists and the scholars, change as you're going through these formative years. Let's go to chapter 3, which is the next part in our modules and our teachings. If I'm Professor M to you, it's chapter 3. If we are in a setting of Show Me Sheena, it is talking about emotions and interpersonal communication. Wow. I think this needs a whole new module to talk about the importance of emotions when we're talking about interpersonal communication. As a summary, our sense of sense is as core to our interpersonal communication as any other element we can think of. As we said in the beginning of the conversation in the modules, who we are has a great deal to do with how we are when we communicate with others. We talked about the identity of self and how it relates. We talked about the 3 spotlights that scholars and researchers highlight when it comes to self. But again, you're with me, we're deep diving, we're going multi-directional, we're going multi-dimensional, and really digging into who we are and the self-concept of what we are, because who we are and what we are dictates and identifies what we stand for. That's super important. So when you're having a conversation with someone, who you stand for is extremely, and what you stand for is extremely important, that conveys in the message that you are communicating with others. Our communication with others not only reflects who we are, it creates who we are. The symbolic interaction that is prevalent when and that's present when, for instance, I walk in a room. We talked about social comparison modeling. We talked about reflected appraisals and alter casting. But most importantly, who you are as you go through your lifespan. So, for instance, I have this. What am I communicating when I wear this scarf that has beautiful print on it? One, I'm communicating that my bestie who bought it for me, I appreciate it. And actually, I sent her a selfie this morning with me, and I sent it to our group chat, because this was one of my Christmas gifts last year. But I sent it to her in a group chat. What am I communicating? Number 1, that I love this type of print. Number 2, I love something soft around my neck. Feels yummy. And, number 3, I love to, hopefully I'm communicating that I'm cognizant of my color matching, because this is my coat today. It matches my scarf. And The boots. Yeah, I'm in the car. This is show and tell. These are the boots. So like, I'm color coordinating, matching. Don't you love these modules? We keep it real in interpersonal communication. So that concludes this module. I can't wait to see you in the next module where we dig deep and we talk about emotions. Stay tuned.